We are back on No Border, No Country in McAllen, Texas at Border School for FAIR. And Matt, we've got a big star here today.
We do. We do indeed. So for our audience, can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Ben Bergquam with, want me to hold it? You want to hold it? Okay. I run an organization called Frontline America, and then I also am the correspondent, national correspondent for Real America's Voice News, report for Steve Bannon's War Room.
You're being far too humble, Ben. Let me translate that a little bit. If you follow the border at all, this is the guy. This guy has spent more time at the border than maybe anyone. And I find your content on Law and Border very entertaining and interesting. I was just watching your most recent one. You were at LAX and you said some guy flipped you off at the airport.
Yeah. And did the full Zig Heil. Yeah. So this, the crazy left, the radical left. I know you guys, I don't know if you guys can get political. I will, but if you can't. So we've got radical leftists in our country, communists, Marxists. Now there's this unholy alliance between them and jihadists in our country that want to destroy this country from within. And they go around saying, President Trump, anyone like you or me who supports immigration, illegal immigrants, illegal aliens being removed, and only following federal immigration law, that we're Nazis. And the irony is, it's exactly the same people that call us fascists, the same people that called Charlie Kirk a fascist and then murdered him for his political views. This guy with this mental illness in LA, I get off the plane, I'm wearing my MAGA hat, and this guy does a full salute, the Zig Heil salute, but they're calling us the fascists, they're calling us the Nazis, and so it just, to me, it's projection. They say that we are what they actually are inside, and so I expose them. In Law and Border, I have the honor to be able to go. I call my reporting show and tell. So no one else was doing it. I used to live in California. A couple of years ago, we moved back to America. I live in Arkansas now, but it's my joke. But it's not too far off. I mean, some parts of California are worse than foreign countries. But I was two things. First off, I started off as an activist because there were no one on our side that were confronting the left for their treason and their insanity destroying our country. So I started off with that. Now, I guess you call me a journalist. It's all opinion. I see the world and I report based on how I see it. But I just was like, okay, there's problems. Let me go see what the problems are. Let me film it and tell you what I think the solutions are. And so that's why I call it show and tell journalism. I just show you, I tell you. And for that, some people love me and some people hate me.
Now, we all know the border was a nightmare under Biden. I mean, just absolute hellscape. What is it like now? What are still the problems there?
Yeah, and just going back to Biden and the Democrats, the puppet string pullers under Biden, this was all intentional. There are activist organizations in our country, many of them masquerading as non-governmental NGOs, nonprofit, humanitarian organizations, who are actively working to undermine our country from within. They've been doing it for 60 years. They really, the sanctuary movement 40 years ago plus started out of places like Chicago. They were given the green light to implement their policies. It was, perfect world for them. They got to do everything they wanted. They made billions of dollars on it. And we saw the largest invasion in global history, not just American history, global history. They admit to 11 million illegals coming across. My estimate, when you take the gotaways, the unknowns, it's probably somewhere in the 15 to 20 million. And now we're going back. So first off, the border is secure. President Trump has stopped the bleeding. That's number one, what he's allowed. And this goes back to the lie that they couldn't stop it, that they had operational control. First, that it was that lie. And then it was, oh, well, we just can't stop this. We're doing everything we can. No, they caused it. It's not.
We need a major piece of legislation to close the border.
Blah, blah, blah. We need a piece of garbage legislation to make it worse is what they were asking for. And to be able to say we're making it better. They caused it. And the way you can tell that they caused it was because President Trump stopped it, immediately stopped it. And all it was consequences. I've done several ICE ride-alongs, embeds, several Border Patrol ride-alongs, which we couldn't do under Biden. And I asked the same question, what's the major difference between now and then? And the overwhelming answer I get is consequences. If there are consequences for your actions, whether that's coming across illegally or smuggling somebody, you were less likely to do it. And so we've seen the fake asylum seekers that were trained by Catholic Charities and the rest of the NGOs. We've seen that stop because they're not being allowed into our country. We're not doing paroled release, so there's no incentive for them to come across because they know they're going to get deported. That has stopped. The biggest problem we have now is going in, and you can use whatever analogy you want, but to me, the best one I have is we're trying to go in and we allowed the water to pour into our country. Now we're trying to go and pick it up with chopsticks to remove it, and that's what we're at right now. Border Patrol, ICE is having to go in and get these guys one at a time when they were let in 10,000 at a time. So the bleeding has stopped, but we're nowhere near out of the woods. And my biggest concern is 2026. If we don't get these elections right, everything Trump's done in the executive orders can be undone in the next administration. But that's where we're at right now. So we've got to arrest the politicians and the NGOs and the people that are aiding and abetting the cartels and trying to prevent ICE from doing their jobs. And then we have to pass legislation that rather than just right now, we have two forms of removal. We have administrative warrants that they're using and criminal warrants. There's got to be something in between that allows them on the administrative warrants, all they can do is knock and hope somebody answers. That's not effective. And the criminal warrants, they have to have a crime associated with it where we're anticipating keeping that person incarcerated in America for a period of time. There's got to be something in between where we say, we know you're here illegally, we're picking you up, and we have the authorization to go into your house. So President Trump, Tom Homan, they're doing every day. It seems like they're trying something new to increase the numbers. Thank God they're in office and the alternative's not, but it's an uphill battle for sure.
So let's put some context on this, because this whole false moral equivalency with the Nazis or the claim that Jesus was a refugee and we would never treat him like this.
Which is a
turn
lie,
him
by the
over
way.
ice. Exactly.
Egypt was under the Roman Empire at the time, same country. So
Yes,
anyways, just
exactly.
But they're go ahead.
So what we're talking about here, to put this in plain terms for our audience, is the Biden administration let in millions of bad guys. We don't know who these people are. We don't know what they're up to. We do know a lot of them are terrorists, a lot of them are criminals, and ICE is simply apprehending them and sending them back to the place where they do have citizenship in order to protect Americans. Now that contrasts to the Nazis, who took people who were German citizens and either threw them out of their own countries because of their religion or sent them to death camps because of their religion.
Well, another layer on top of that, the actual Nazis of today, the ones that actually have any sort of political power, are Islamists. The ones that are saying they want to wipe Israel off the map are the ones that are marching with the leftists that are calling us Nazis. I mean, the world is upside down. It's biblical, though. I mean, they've replaced the truth with the lie. What's wrong is right and right is wrong. And so you're seeing that. And so I think we're in a really unique time in American history where America's getting to see, the world is getting to see, where they used to be able to hide behind their hypocrisy. There was a drumbeat enough to be able to say, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi. Oh, you got a shaved head, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi. And the general public would be, oh, he must be a Nazi. Now it's, I've heard that enough times, and the people that they've called that don't seem to be that way. And in fact, their actions are more fascistic, I think is the word, than theirs are. And so there's this, we're seeing this paradigm shift. And we saw that with young people in particular, with the execution of Charlie Kirk, the political assassination, the terrorist attack on Charlie Kirk last week. We've seen more of that with young people in particular that said they were getting beat over the head in these communist education camps called public school. And then they started realizing, wait a second, the counterculture is really us. It's the people that think for themselves. It's not these people that chant mindlessly the same garbage that they know to be untrue because it's right in front of their face. Part of that was the border that woke a lot of people up to it. But there's just this, it's like my reporting. I see it with my eyes. You can tell me it's not true, but I see it. It's right there. And I think that's what people are starting to see. Wait a second. They're lying to us. Yes, you have those leftist groups pretending that they're Christian that are actually working on the side of the devil, in my opinion, because they're aiding and abetting the worst type of people. They're not protecting women and children. They're in fact handing, and that's what we saw under Biden. All these NGOs weren't protecting women and children. They were handing them over to the cartels to be raped. And the way I know that is because we actually got the rape kits that were being given out by the United Nations in Colombia before they went into the jungle because they knew they were going to be raped. But instead of saying, stop, don't go, they said, here's a whistle, here's some condoms and morning after pills because we know you're going to get.
Insanity.
These are the same people. So I think, I pray that they have overplayed their hand and we're going to see a major shift in America. But that's our biggest problem right now, are the enemies within our own country that have been given cover by both the media, by education system, by the courts in a lot of jurisdictions to be able to aid and abet criminals, aid and abet criminal activity against our federal government that's actually doing its primary oath, which is protecting the Constitution and the citizens of this nation. That's my biggest fear. And until there's prosecutions on those people and those organizations, and until we get law, not just executive orders, we're in still some major hurt.
So what do you think is different about immigration? Because if you stop and you think about any other area of law, if New Bedford, Massachusetts decided to declare itself a whaling sanctuary and start hunting whales again, the environmentalists would have
awesome.
a meltdown.
They should do that just for fun.
You know, if Goliad County, Texas decided to declare itself a Second Amendment sanctuary and require everyone to carry guns, the left would have a meltdown.
Yeah.
But somehow, when it comes to immigration, they think that they are entitled to exempt themselves from the immigration laws.
It's exactly what we saw under President Trump. When the federal government, it goes back to the supremacy clause, and the federal government was not doing its job. And so Texas came along and said, well, if you're not going to do it, we have an obligation to protect our citizens. And that went through the courts and they said, well, that's a federal issue. You guys can't do that. Well, these same people that are saying, well, that's a federal issue under Biden, you have to let them in, are now saying, well, no, we don't have to follow this. This isn't fair. You're mistreating people. So we're going to give sanctuary. It goes back to the supremacy clause. I actually think, well, there's no question there was more justification for Governor Abbott, and I don't think he did enough, but every governor to say the federal government is not doing its job, we are being invaded, we're going to repel the invasion. I think there's definitely more of a constitutional argument for that than for saying federal government is doing its job and we just want to thwart that because we don't think it's fair. If this is one of the frustrations I have right now, I want to caveat this or qualify this. There's not enough being done fast enough to undo the problem that was done under Biden and the Democrats in the last 40 years. But at the same time, you still have a bureaucracy that you're trying to get these things through. I think if this was taken to the Supreme Court, there's no doubt about it. Supremacy clause would uphold President Trump. Sanctuary policy would be undone. You cannot pass legislation that goes against federal law if you don't have standing to do it, or if you don't have, your states can't do that. And so I think ultimately that will be decided at the Supreme Court level. I don't know why it hasn't been done yet. And until that happens, and until there's prosecutions, until there's consequences for these politicians and municipalities that are doing that, again, I think it's going to be worse before it gets better.
It's been a standing issue. Early, which has now merged into FAIR, actually tried to do that. And it's hard for a lot of these cases. The aliens have standing to challenge things, but American citizens who are affected by these decisions have no standing whatsoever, and it's problematic.
That's insane.
Ben,
And I think that's where it's going to have to. I don't know why it hasn't come from the administration directly. That where they do have the standing, it's federal government. I think they should sue every one of these municipalities, whether it's a state or local government.
Amen.
I don't know why they haven't.
Ben, I saw a video you put out a while ago. It was a short, and you were trolling some ICE protesters, and you were doing it with humor, as you always do, and it was great. But I'm wondering about these protesters. I mean, are they paid actors? Are they just useful idiots for this anti-borders movement? What do you think they're about?
It's a combination. So you have organizations, this idea of intersectionality is the term they use. It's all these organizations that have come together, many of them paid for through federal grants, some of them through donations from leftists. George Soros gets the name, or that's the name that's always thrown out, but there's 100 billionaires in America that fund this crap. So some of them are funded, some of them are useful idiots that just think that they're part of this. They're being educated. These organizations are on college campuses. And some of that is foreign money coming in. You look at like the Confucius Institutes that are all across America. It's basically the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, operating on our college campuses that are infiltrating. They were a big part of the Palestinian protests. They were a big part of the shutdowns of Columbia and NYU. That was CCP funneling through Confucius Institutes. But in Chicago, for instance, last week, you're talking about, that is local La Raza activist organizations working with local socialist communist organizations that are paid for in part by federal dollars under Biden. They were getting grants. They were part of the NGO communities that were getting grants, but also from the local government. So you have local Chicago that's working with these organizations. You have local media that's working with these organizations that are all working to undermine America and ICE operations, to the point where I was actually in a car. We got surrounded by them. They blocked the operation that we were on. It's clearly criminal, in my opinion. I'm not an attorney or law enforcement, but I saw that. I'm like, this is designed to obstruct a federal law enforcement operation. And at this point, nothing's really being done to them. And that goes back to, until there's prosecutions, I don't see that changing. And really, it's follow the money. As you said, these organizations are funded. They are connected. To me, it's a massive RICO case in the making. They're all connected. They're all communicating together. Again, it's every single community. So that whether that's Chicago or New York or even down here in the RGV, Catholic Charities, you'll have these similar terrible organizations that all work together, pretending to be community organizing organizations. In reality, they're anti-American, leftist, communist, and now again working with jihadists. It's just I call it an unholy soup. It's just so. Answer is all of the above.
And the media frames it as if it's this completely organic thing, and the whole country's boiling with rage against these policies.
No. It is the exact opposite of organic. It is staged. It's orchestrated. They're well organized. Indivisible is one of the major ones. Like in Chicago, that's one of the ones we saw at all of these events. But they all are intermingled, working together. But if you want to see the organizations, go to Indivisible, their website, Indivisible, I think it's .org. Go to Act Blue. The same organizations that are working to steal elections are also working to keep illegals in our country. Go figure. All the same, and working to keep jihadists in America. Calling you a Nazi if you say, people that want to chop my head off because I refuse to bow to Islam, like that. These are the same people, and they're all working together.
And the thing that kills me about it is you have La Raza, which literally means the race. Yeah. And they're not called the hate group by the SPLC.
Oh, the SPLC
Fair is.
Yeah. SPLC is the biggest hate group in America. They're the biggest group that hates America in America.
They're big fans of ours, too.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor. If you get labeled in the SPLC, it means you're doing something right.
Oh, they've labeled me like 3 times already.
Hashtag me too.
It's an elite club we all belong to.
No, they're terrible. Southern Poverty Law Center is a communist organization designed to attack their political opponents, and it used to work. They used to be, when you were targeted by them, the mainstream media would glom onto that, and then what they were really designed to do was take away ad revenue for individuals and people, cancel your life. It was all part of the cancel culture, but really it was designed for corporate America to scare them into submission. And thank God it doesn't seem to be working anymore. In fact, we're actually having this reverse cancel culture where, oddly, people that celebrate murder of innocent people is now finally people are getting canceled for that. So there's this definitely a weird shift going on. But those are the organizations that I call them the enemies within. All of these people, organizations, networks, where I work for a great network. We exist because there was a vacuum created by fake news media that was protecting the worst in our society.
Well, Ben, we could do this all day, but I'm sure you're busy. I'm having a ball here. This is great stuff. But anything you want to promote or plug or make people know about?
Yeah, our show, Law and Border, we've got, I'm 5 episodes behind because we've been slammed these last few weeks, but new episodes coming out. In fact, our next one will be our time in Culiacan, Sinaloa, showing you what a failed narco state looks like and what we want to prevent in America. americasvoice.news, and then my organization's frontlineamerica.com. You can find me at Ben Bergquam on all social media, and then Substack is Frontline America.
All right.
Next time you're in DC, stop by Fair
Yes.
Studios and come talk to us.
I will.
Please
God
do.
bless
All right,
Fair.
Ben. Thank you very much.
Yeah, God bless Fair. God bless the work you guys are doing. It's an absolute honor to stand with you guys or sit with you. in this
Thank you.
case.
Thank you.